Set the record straight, because I've been watching the Wall Street Journal's fake news and all these stories that get printed like, oh, I want to make a deal. They are begging to make a deal, not me. They're begging to make a deal. And anybody that saw what was happening over there would understand why they want to make a deal. But they say, oh, we're not talking to them. Anybody would know that. And only a total fool. And they're not fools. They're very smart, actually, in a certain way. And they're great negotiators. I say they're lousy fighters, but they're great negotiators. They are begging to work out a deal. I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that. They should have done that 4 weeks ago. They should have done it 2 years ago. Or they should have done it when we first came into office, because 2 years ago they had free reign under Biden. Sleepy Joe, worst president in the history of our country.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's special stream with our dear friend Alizadeh from Jedaal or Jedaal TV. His X account and also YouTube channel, by the way, guys, are tagged in the description below. Thank you so much, Ali, for coming to the show. I really appreciate that you come back to Syriana Analysis. Your insights are very valuable also for me and for the audience of Syriana Analysis. I would like to walk with you through the events and the war of aggression against your own country. And I think this is a good opportunity to start with this video of Trump, which is just recent. A few minutes ago, this has been posted on social media platforms. He says that the Iranians are begging for a deal with him. And at the same time, we have lots of reports, actually, including in the mainstream press. For example, in The Guardian, they say Iran rejecting Trump's 15-point plan is largest sign yet that the US is losing the war. Where do you think the truth is? Is it in the middle? Do you think that the Iranians are interested in a deal? And what type of deal do you think the Iranians would be interested in? And I'm sure they're not begging for a deal. I'm not going to ask you about that, but Trump is making these wild allegations again about your country.
Thank you very much, Kevork, to invite me again. It's an honor to be in your show, a show which is coming out of yet another episode of imperialist intervention and attempt to destroy countries in global south and especially in West Asia. So let's just look at what Trump has been saying in the last 3 weeks. Today is day 27 of this war, if I'm not mistaken. And Trump has been lying to American public, to global kind of audience, but also to himself. I think genuinely he's lying to himself. And because he was sold this war on very delusional basis, he cannot face the truth. And I think at this stage, he's really gambling his political legacy and the future of his term in the office, but also the future of Republicans, MAGA, and everything. I'm sure this will definitely affect the midterm election, but also the next presidential election. And look at that. Let me just take you back to the night before this war started on Friday, 27th of February. Steve Witkoff, his special emissary, said something which gives us a very clear image. He said, President is frustrated. I cannot say frustrated, but yes, frustrated. Why, with all this military buildup, Iranians do not surrender? Yes. That's exact quote from Steve Witkoff, which actually gives us a very clear image of how shallow the decision behind this war has been and how childish Trump's decision-making has been. He really thought with bringing a massive buildup, with bringing 2 aircraft carriers, Iranians will just lay their arms down and say, okay, you are so strong, you have a beautiful, beautiful weapon, and we surrender. And now, day 27, he is still in the same way of thinking. He hasn't learned anything from the last 3 weeks. I was really disappointed and surprised why American government, with all these different instruments of research, all these universities, all these think tanks, they haven't been better prepared for this war. But put that aside, even they could have learned from the last 3 weeks. the last 3 weeks taught them, number one, this is not a regime depending on any single personality. This is a state rooted in a big part of Iranian society, and killing each personnel, each leader, each commander, each minister, each head of an institution does not affect the country. And that person will be immediately replaced by the next person and the next person. Second, they came to this war by the delusion that Iranian people from inside will show support and will join in an uprising to topple the state from within. And what they have on day 27, they turn the country into a state of revolution, but not a pro-American revolution. They have revived Islamic Revolution of 1979 without any exaggeration. Between 5 to 10 million people out of 92 million Iranians every night come to the streets of Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, and every small town and sometimes and even villages. They spread along the streets, they fill up, they chant for hours, they stay there, and the gatherings are usually advertised for 8 to 10, 11, and people stay until 3, 4 in the morning. Trump has turned the country into a movable feast, as Hemingway would have put it. He's turned the country into an endless carnival. It's day 28 of this carnival of mourning, of solidarity, of showing kind of rally around the flag. So instead of bringing people into revolting against the state, he united them in an unprecedented way. Iran has never been so united since 1979 and early years of war against Iraq. That's number 2 delusion. Number 3, he thought Iranian military has been degraded in the last couple of years. In the 12 days, they were partially degraded, and Iran's axis of resistance was heavily degraded. And then you can see what's happening. Just look at Lebanon. You are in much better position to understand and assess the power of Hezbollah in Lebanon and see whether Hezbollah was done with and was finished before or not, as the Israelis media said. Or Hezbollah has been really fighting in a way that has been made it very difficult for Israel in the last 3 weeks. Same for Iraqi resistance, which the claim was Iraqi resistance are done with, they have no power, they cannot do much. And look at that, Iraqi resistance forced NATO forces out of Iraq. They forced them, and they almost liberated Iraq. And Americans also left Iraq on day 10, 11 of the war, if I'm not mistaken. So they had enough power. And that's all before Ansarullah in Yemen come to the scene, because I think I said that from early days of this war, Ansarullah have kept their kind of power and their force for the end game and for the last part of the war. There is no rush in Iran's action.
When do you think they would intervene? When do you think the Ansarullah may intervene in this case?
I think they will intervene when Iran wants to escalate. So far, Iran has been responding to America's unreasonable escalation, because Iran said, we don't want to escalate, but if you escalate, we immediately retaliate. But I think Ansarullah will enter when Iran wants to escalate, and that's for the end of the war. Or alternatively, if Saudis unwisely enter the war, if Saudis touch the war, then Ansarullah will immediately from behind will teach them a lesson that what happened in September 2019 will look like a miniature, will really look like a very small scale of that. So that's number 3 of the military. And number 4, and I'll finish it here. Number 4 was they thought attacking Iran's missile cities or underground missile facilities or launchers, they will degrade Iranian capabilities. And I think this is embarrassing for a superpower not having enough intelligence, because anyone would have told them that after the end of 12 days war in June and July, Iran simply changed its changed the position of its launchers and changed the paradigm of its missile tactics. Iran is a country which hasn't bought its military devices from anywhere. Iran has created its military capabilities. Iran is a country which has created a military paradigm. The asymmetrical warfare that Iran is using is initiated by them, so they can easily modify. And what happened in 12 Days War, US and Israel disclosed a lot of their tactics. That's why Iran quickly adopted, and in the 8 months leading to this war, 9 months, 8 months leading to this war, they changed everything. So they can go and throw all their bunker buster bombs on Iran's mountains. Some of them are like 2,000 meter high. They don't get anywhere because Iran's missiles are not necessarily there. That would have worked if they had done it back in 12 Days War. But since then, Iran repositioned most of its missiles, and they distributed it so much that is impossible for anyone. I mean, United States should be fully depleted if they want to even destroy 20-30% of Iran's missiles and drones. That's why they've been lying to themselves. Every week they come and say Iran is left with no drones and no missiles. And every week we see the impact of Iranian drones and missiles are getting harder and harder on Israel and American bases. What happened in Arad and in Dimona on Saturday doesn't work. It's not compatible with the claims of United States and Israel regarding the depletion of uranium. So that's why what Trump is saying, it means that he is, if you know about the 5 stages of grief, he's still in the stage of denial. And that's very dangerous because America is a superpower in charge of nuclear bomb, in charge of a lot of kind of very lethal weaponry, and definitely will not win the war. But we don't want the region to be destroyed any further. And the fact that he's still in the stage of denial and does not want to accept the reality that he cannot win a military war with Iran and he cannot get anywhere, he hasn't moved an inch, is very sad. Let me just add this one as well. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you know better than me. This war started with no strategy for Trump. And that's a big lesson for everyone. Don't go to a war without a strategy. If you have the best weapons, if you have the best tactics, without a clear strategy, it doesn't get you anywhere. And Trump had no strategy. He had only plan A. We go in, we kill the Ayatollah, we target 2,000 different points, and then they will surrender. And then after 48 hours, when that didn't happen, he really was lost. He was literally lost. He had no other idea what is the next plan or what is plan B and plan C. And the second point is, after 1 week, it started saying that we want to destroy their nuclear capability, something that Iranian had offered voluntarily to do it. And if you remember, again, the night before this war started, Omani foreign minister said in CBS that Iranians are willing to give away all their nuclear capabilities, or they're willing to send out the 400 kilogram of 60% uranium, etc. So then something that Iranians would have offered themselves directly became the objective of the war. But then on day 10, when Iranians close the Strait of Hormuz, all the attentions change. Now the objective of war is to open the Strait of Hormuz. So in a sense, he started the war for one objective. Halfway through, he met other obstacles, and now all the objective is to resolve the second obstacle, which is very ridiculous. And now, in order to open this, he wants to send troops to Khark Island. And I promise you, today is 26th of March. If he does such a massive mistake, then from Monday, everyone will be talking about how to get the troops out of Khark Island. That will become the main objective, because he's going to basically create a voluntarily hostage-taking situation.
Ali, you sound very self-confident. And if I were in your shoes, I would feel very, very self-confident. And I would also feel proud to be in Iranian under such circumstances. But if I take 1 or 2 steps back, when the war started against Iran, and this is a personal question I'm asking to you because I remember the memories of the Syrian war. In 2011, 2012, we were all doubtful. What is going on? Are we going to survive it or not? And then in 2012, I remember there was intelligence operation which eliminated, and they have killed the 6 most senior Syrian officers, generals who were managing the crisis in the country during a meeting. And this was the only day I had a doubt, and I said, can we really survive this as Syria? And this was in 2012. Afterwards, I was confident that we are going to emerge victorious until the December 2024, which they reactivated this regime change war and they ousted Assad. So the question would be here, when the war started and they assassinated Ayatollah Khamenei and many other senior officers in this case, did you have this doubt that what is going to happen next, or you were sure that the retaliation was going to be so decisive the way that is now, that we can see that the Americans are confused?
I mean, it would be dishonest if I say I've been sure from day one. No, I mean, when Ayatollah Khamenei got killed, it created a shock, a psychological shock in at least kind of me and ordinary citizens, because we are watching the thing from afar. But 24 hours later, when I saw how Iran is responding, I started gaining my confidence. So I think that shock and awe campaign that created by Trump and Netanyahu, initiated by that assassination, worked 24 hours for ordinary people, whereas for the commanders of IRGC and army, it didn't work at all, because I think they were told what's going to happen and they had prepared themselves for such scenario. Now, we have more information from Iranians inside the country that from the end of 12 days war, they exactly prepared themselves for this moment. Let me just want to say something personal. After 12 days war, I was one of the voices criticizing Iranians for not elongating that war, for not showing more will to fight back. And I said many times in my program that if 12 days war had become 13 days war, Israelis wouldn't have dared to create hybrid warfare in the streets of Iran on 8th and 9th of January, etc. But then someone told me early on after that 12 days war that things are much bigger than you can imagine. We're going to have one more massive war, which is going to be much longer, much bloodier, much costlier, much more costly. And after that, we're not going to have any other war. So I was told that back in July 2025. And when I look back, I think they exactly knew what they were doing. The reason they ended the 12 days war as soon as they could, and they accepted the ceasefire proposed by Americans and Israelis, because they had a long time vision of what's happening. And they knew that they have to prepare themselves. They have to gather information. They have to modify their defense and offensive weapons. And so they prepared themselves for this moment extremely well. That's why when I was told that, because there was a question about Iran's military, the question of intelligence in Iran, the fact that Israel has so much information, and I was told, don't worry, we have up to 8 layers of leadership for every position in case of assassination. So imagine, I mean, if in Lebanon after pager war, they had prepared themselves for the second page of war and third page of war. So they were well prepared for this moment. And that has made me kind of have my confidence throughout this. Second thing, I've been very worried about Iran's internal political system. Iran is a kind of multipolar political system, is a pluralistic political system. You have Zarif and Rouhani and liberals who have been constantly talking about the necessity of negotiation. Famously, the godfather of that political faction was Hashemi Rafsanjani, who famously said, the day of tomorrow is the day of dialogues, not missiles. And in this camp, you had Ayatollah Khamenei, who was a classical realist, who always insisted on importance of having a strong defense. And I was really worried about how the country was being exhausted in this internal fighting between these two. And the fact that the country is fully united, the liberals are completely sidetracked now, and they don't even talk. No one listened to them. And the republic has been revived. The people are talking. The Ayatollah Khamenei, the junior, Mujtaba, the son of Martyr Sayyid Ali Khamenei, said in his message for the new year that the country is run by the people more than anyone else, because the leader doesn't appear on TV. Mujtaba, we haven't seen him. And Ali Larijani, who was the voice of the state for a while, is assassinated now. And the other one is whoever is can be assassinated tomorrow. But you cannot assassinate 10 million people who are on the streets every day. And that has changed balance of forces to a way that it gives me so much confidence. I know no liberal from inside, no infiltrator from inside, no Delcy Rodriguez from inside, no Pahlavis wanting to revolt from inside. None of them can work. Let me just give you an example. Yeah? About 3 days ago, Politico wrote a piece saying that Trump's administration is eyeing Ghalibaf as a possible West-backed leader. No. Mm-hmm. If anyone knows Ghalibaf, knows this is absolute nonsense. Ghalibaf lost his brother in the war. He was a commander of Iran-Iraq war for 8 years. He lost many of his friends. He was best friend with Qasem Soleimani. And he's coming from that kind of rank. These people are made in the war. They haven't taken boot off their feet for the last 47 years. So when did you recruit him? I mean, this is like nonsense. And Ghalibaf responded to them after that yesterday. As you saw, he became even more belligerent. But more interesting, they were trying to create some suspicion among the rank and file of the state. But people on the street, they immediately understood what's happening. And millions of people that night, they chanted in support of Ghalibaf. Now, you have to, if you know the a bit like details of Iranian politics, Ghalibaf is more or less in the center, Pezeshkian is a reformist on the liberal side, and then someone like Jalili is like the hardliner in the other side. So many of these people didn't like Ghalibaf necessarily, but they realized that America is trying to create a fissure between them. So immediately they embraced him and they chanted in full support of Ghalibaf to undo and neutralize America's like deceitful tactics. So in a sense, those people on the street are guaranteeing that Iran will fight this to the very end. Every night they are shouting when they announce, for example, the night that they announced Dimona was hit, people on the street, they were shouting, Sayyid Javad Nokhtazan, the pinpointing Sayyid Javad Musavi, who is the head of Air Force, attack Dimona again. Or Tank Siri, the head of IRGC's Navy, who got martyred this morning, apparently. Every night they're saying that narrow down the Strait of Hormuz even more. So in a sense, the chance and the policy of the war is coming from below, not from above. And that is something you cannot change anymore.
Ali, I also remember a few months ago you posted in Persian, and our friend David Miller translated your post to English when you said you were criticizing Pezeshkian back in the day and his pursuit for talks with the Americans, and you said, if Ali Khamenei is assassinated, you're responsible. I still remember that. I saved that post and I have screened it on Syriana Analysis, and your prediction turned out to be correct in that case. But there was a bigger strategy behind the talk and the war, and sometimes 1 feet here, sometimes 1 feet there. I think the Iranians have calculated correctly whether it is a reformist or not. I think at the end of the day, the type of strength that Iran has shown and resilience in this case, it will make any country think not 10 times, 1,000 times to attack Iran again, even economically in this case. But the Americans are still making big allegations and they're talking big talk. And this is yesterday. at least 3 congressional Republicans, including chairs of House and Senate Armed Services, are hinting strongly that a ground operation in Iran is planned and could potentially be underway soon. Now, I'm not going to ask whether you believe the ground offensive would happen or not, because I would not rule out that possibility, especially when Trump is there. But how do you see the nature of this attack? What would they try to achieve in this case? Where would they land? How would they stay on whatever island they're talking about? Like, you could land in a place, but how could you stay there alive?
So, I mean, imagine, God forbid, never in my life, but if I was Trump's advisor, I would just tell him to go and look around you and see who told you to start this war by assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei. Not only sack them, put them under interrogation of CIA, because they might be infiltrators from the other side. And the same for Hark Island. This is like, no, I'm being serious. If this war had started in any other way, and today Ayatollah Khamenei would be alive, Iran wouldn't have had this resolve and this will to fight so wholeheartedly. I promise you. I mean, it is like, that was the biggest mistake in history of American military. Second is this one. I'll tell Trump that many people in Iran are rallying around the flag, but there are still like 20% who are confused. The moment you invade Iran's land, even that 20% are going to come and rally around the flag. So in a sense, this is a second biggest mistake if he ever does it. Same as like attacking kids in a primary school. So in a sense, he's like crossing the boundaries of Iranian deep-rooted psyche, invading Iran's land, stepping into Iran's land. Is not fighting with the Islam Republic anymore. So he's going to be directly fighting with Iranians, and that's going to only strengthen the country. So what's going to happen? I mean, I'm sure you've read many articles in CNN, in Bloomberg, in Financial Times, even like those mainstream kind of outlets close to American government have been warning about such a madness. They called it suicidal. They called it like they call it, as Quincy Statecraft put it, an attempt to create a hostage taking against all Americans, etc. But you know what's going to happen. First, the amphibious vessels have to cross the Strait of Hormuz, and that actually may push Iranians to close the Strait of Hormuz for good. So far, Iranians didn't want to close the Strait of Hormuz completely. Iranians are only selectively allowing certain people to come and go. And as I think yesterday, maybe Arakshi said is your own insurance companies which do not insure the tankers. We are not closing anything. So Iranians are like taunting Americans and rubbing salt to their wound at the moment. But if they want to do that, maybe Iran is forced to close the Strait of Hormuz with mines. And that means that no oil for at least the next 2 years. I mean, everyone would lose in that situation, including Iranians. They cannot export part of their oils. But Iran is a very, very flexible country, and they can, but they already have like pipes bypassing the Strait of Hormuz going to Chabahar. In the other side, Iran has 2,000 kilometers of shore and only 1,000 kilometers in this side of the strait. And the other, Iran has slightly, still about 1,000 kilometers shore after the Strait of Hormuz. So it damages Iran in short term, but Iran can cope with that, number one. Number two, Iran will attack all its vessels coming to Hark Island. And you know the different scenarios. I'm not a military expert. And they say heliboard, airborne, and coming with amphibious. And the moment they get into the island, things will change, because they still need to receive from aid and supply once a week or twice a week. And all of that kind of resupplying is under Iranian fire, number one. Second, Iran is only 15 miles away from Hark Island. So it's very easy for Iran to constantly attack them. So they say these people are going to take shelter under oil facilities. But look at that. Iran sees this as a existential threat. So If it's necessary to destroy Khark Island's facilities, let it be. So Iran has prepared itself. So that's why I'm surprised why Trump has not changed his coordinate of thinking about this war. He still thinks Iran is the same Iran who sat with Witkoff twice and offering them whatever they wanted in the hope of some sanction relief. They haven't realized how United States and Israel have inadvertently changed the country. This is not the same country who was sitting with you a month ago. This is a country which is ready for full existential war. And so they are ready to destroy their own Khark Island's oil facilities. And they are well prepared not to export oil from that terminal for the next 6 months, year, or 2 years. That's number two. The number three is the moment they do that, they also will destroy Aramco. So you ask me, when Ansarullah come to the scene, with Ansarullah or without Ansarullah, Iran will make sure that not a single more barrel of oil can be produced in this region for the next 2 or 3 years. So Trump is only exacerbating the situation. And for me, coming from philosophical background, I think in a dialectical way, he is really accelerating the job of history. If Hegel was watching what Trump is doing, saying that we all knew about decline of history, decline of American empire, but we were waiting for a counter-Napoleon, for a clown, for a fool to come and accelerate it. So if he does it, so you will see oil going to $300 a barrel. All of these like Persian Gulf countries will be out of oil production for the next 2-3 years, and everything will change. And so that's why, in a sense, he doesn't understand that Iranians have no red line anymore. Iran has had too much restraint, too much red line. Iran was bonded by strategic patience for too long, and Trump is still thinking Iran is the Iran of strategic patience. It's not. So just look at for the last 3 weeks. It has attacked every country in the region. It has retaliated immediately. It has shown no fear. I mean, let me just be honest with you. The moment they said they attacked Asaluye in South Pars oil field, I was a bit scared. I thought, oh my God, this escalation is very heavy. What is Iran going to do? But then the commanders in the decision-making chamber, in the situation room in Tehran and other places, they showed no fear. They said, don't worry, we're immediately going to take oil fields in the region. And for one oil field in Iran, they took 6 oil fields in the region. So Iran is not even doing eye for eye. Iran, for one eye, they take from Iran. Iran takes 2 eyes from them, 2 ears, few teeth, and 1 or 2 other kind of parts of them. So in a sense, if they just look how Iran has been responding, they should realize that taking Khark Island would just give Iran's legitimacy to retaliate with twice force. So, as I said, Iran will happily destroy Khark Island's facilities, but will destroy every facility of the third parties in the region. Because, according to Resolution 3314 of United Nations, the third parties helping, giving land to aggression, they are also a party to the war. And what Iran has been doing to Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait is absolutely legitimate and in line with United Nations Charter.
In this case, I think it's important to tell our audience what the Mossad basically outlet called Axios is saying about this possible ground invasion of Iran. And they say the Pentagon is developing military options for a final blow in Iran that could include the use of ground forces and massive bombing campaign. This is per Axios. So US officials provide 4 final blow options. 1, invading or blockading Khark Island, Iran's main oil export hub. 2, invading Larak, an island that helps Iran solidify its control of the Strait of Hormuz. 3, seizing the strategic island of Abu Musa and 2 smaller islands, which lie near the western entrance of the Strait of Hormuz and are controlled by Iran, but also claimed by the UAE. blocking or seizing ships that are exporting Iranian oil on the eastern side of the Strait of Hormuz. Some US officials think these options could create more leverage for President Trump. But then Kalipov, he responded to this. He said, based on some data, Iran's enemies, with the support of one of the regional countries, are preparing to occupy one of the Iranian islands. All enemy movements are under the full surveillance of our armed forces. If they step out of line, all the vital infrastructure of that regional country will, without restriction, become the target of relentless attacks. I mean, he means the UAE in this case. I'm really baffled by the suicidal path that the UAE has taken during this war. Yesterday, one of their top diplomats, he has written an article for the Wall Street Journal. It says the UAE stands up to Iran. So he says the past 3.5 weeks of war have confirmed what we have known for nearly 50 years. Iran's revolution is a threat to global security and economic stability. We can't let Iran hold the US, the UAE, and the global economy hostage. A simple ceasefire isn't enough. We need a conclusive outcome that addresses Iran's full range of threats: nuclear capabilities, missiles, drones, terror proxies, and blockades of international sea lanes. This is a maximalist, let's say, rhetoric coming from the UAE. It echoes what Benjamin Netanyahu and his Zionist team are basically wishing and hoping to achieve in Iran. But this is small UAE with no military capability. Why would they have this loud, let's say, mouses?
So let me just go back to what Axios said. It's very interesting. But we can look at that. I mean, we see restlessness. We see restlessness in Trump's decisions. Last week, he said he will remove the oil sanctions from Iran so Iran can sell more oil to keep the price of oil down. Now, this week, he's moved from that to seizing Iran's tankers. Just, you need to have a slightly more memory than a fish to realize this policies is not policy of a clear thinking administration. He's acting like a drunk man. How is it possible that in 1 week, first they removed the sanctions, then they got criticized in the country, then you had Bessent coming and saying that we are out jiu-jitsuing Iran? How can you just, by letting them sell oil to bring the price of oil down? Thank you very much. That's what Iran wanted all these years, to remove the oil sanctions. But then now they reverse again, saying that we're going to get leverage. No, they don't get any leverage on Iran. They lost the leverage. They had leverage before entering the war. Now Iran sees itself with its leader assassinated, a leader which had religious, spiritual significance for a big portion of Iranian society. Two, Iran sees a lot of its infrastructures destroyed. That means $300-400 billion of war damages. And so you're going to leave the country on that? No. And then the sanctions are continuing as well. So Iran is very clear, despite all these noises coming from America. It's like, these movies in which you have a Zen master on one side, and the other side is like his cowboy making noises, and then the Zen master is not even listening. So Iranian politicians and Iranian commanders and IRGC and army commanders do not even listen to the noise coming from the United States. So they're not even getting distracted. Their objectives are very simple and clear. One, reviving Iran's deterrence. I said that on day 1, I said on day 5, day 10, and I'll repeat it. Iran wants this to be the last war for at least 2 decades with the United States, with Israel, or from any of these Lilliput countries in the region. That's it. Number 1. Why? Because Iran wants to be able to attract investment from friendly countries, especially China. And no one will invest in a country which is open to a possible war in 6 months' time. Number 1. Number 2, Iran has just discovered its massive treasure called Strait of Hormuz. Iran will not give it up anymore. Now, America, EU, and other countries who put pressure on Iran for nuclear project for the last 23 years. They are welcome to start another 23 years of pressure on the Strait of Hormuz. But Iran sees a Strait of Hormuz and closure and openness of a Strait of Hormuz as its unalienable right. So it's not going to relinquish that right. Then number 2. And 3, Iran wants to make sure that America doesn't occupy the regional countries anymore. Iran doesn't want these American bases. American bases came to this region in 1990. That was a different world order. It was called unilateral world order. That has come to an end. So America should go home. Americans should pack and go home and should leave Iran alone with Israel. Iran and Israel know what to do with each other. And I think Iran think if Israel is such a bully, should be able to stand its ground on its own, not to bring another bigger bully from 10,000 miles away. So these are Iran's direct objectives. And Iran thinks we already have paid such a price. We're not going to leave halfway through. We're going to take this to the end. And as I said, even if there's some confusion on top, there's no confusion at the bottom in the society, in those IRGC ordinary rank and files who are sitting behind the launchers, and they may get martyred as we are speaking by the end of this program. There is no confusion. They want this war to be fought to the very last moment. Now let's go to UAE. So UAE, we knew that UAE is party to this war. UAE wanted these 3 islands because if you have followed UAE in the last few years, they have much bigger ambitions than the small size allows. They are party to genocide in Sudan. They were party to genocide in Yemen. They were part of killing 307,000 Yemenis. They occupied part of Yemen. They are in Sudan, in other countries, and they see themselves as like Republic of Venice back in 15th century, 16th century. And so they really wanted these 3 islands, Abu Musa, a small tomb, and big tomb, for a long time ago. And they thought it's worth to be attacked by Iran, to lose our brand Dubai. But if we get hold of these 3 islands, suddenly we become a strong party and we have this overseeing position over the Strait of Hormuz. But I think they are mistaken. They don't know what they're playing with. And of course, another thing is anyone is tainted by Israel is like a zombie movie. Anyone gets tainted by Israel becomes infected. And UAE is a second Israel. Dubai is Tel Aviv number 2 in the region. So Israelis and Emiratis are working hand in hand, and that's why the thinking is very much under Israeli influence. But look at that. The guy says that the Emirati that you showed me in Wall Street Journal says Iran has been a problem in the region for the last 4 decades. If anyone has benefited from Iran in the last 4 decades is UAE. You know, because UAE is acting almost like Iran's central bank. In order for Iran to be able to bypass the sanctions, they have established thousands of companies in UAE. And that's why when Iran sells oil, the money goes to UAE, and then they take hand to hand. They take it from one hand to another hand, and Emirates take its commissions, and has so much like influence over that money, and then the money can come to Iran after a big delay. You know, even though Iran sells the main export of Iran oils goes to China, instead of dealing in yuan RMB, 38% of that money, even the day before this war started, goes to Emirates, to UAE, and becomes dirham. 38% becomes dirham, and they take the commission of that. That's why many people believe what Bessent said regarding the uprising of 8th and 9th of January was done through the cooperation of UAE, because all this oil money was sitting in Dubai, and then Americans, Israelis, and Emiratis held that money. They froze that money.
Yes.
So they created a financial crisis in Iran for a short time, which led to people coming on the street and the massive inflation. So keep it here. So anyone benefiting from Iran and Iran sanctions has been UAE. UAE is like the main benefactor of Iran sanctions. So, but they've been too greedy. They plundered Iran's economy. There is a lot of capital flights from Iran went to Dubai. So many of those houses in Dubai and those penthouses belongs to Iran's oligarchy who bought them. And now they wanted Iran's land as well. And I think that's one step too far. And what has happened in Dubai is not going to is going to be dwarfed by what Iran is going to do to UAE if America touches one of those three islands, and if America does so by the help of UAE. First, as I said before the war, and memory quoted that, first, all water salinations in Dubai will be destroyed. And so UAE has to live without any water. But Iran is not going to stop there. Iran will go for every single big technological American company there and make UAE absolutely like livable for those, and we go any further. We go further, and you know better than me that UAE's anti-air missile has already been depleted, and they've been asking Americans for resupply, and Americans say, sorry, our priority is Israel. We cannot help you. Go and help yourself. Yeah. So Dubai is a city without much air defense at the moment and partially depleted. And so Iran can do whatever it wants to do with it. So I think this level of hubris and this level of miscalculations in UAE leadership it should be influence of Israel. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense in terms of real politics.
As you said, there has to be some factor in this. Like, look what Dahi Khalfan posted only a few days ago on the 24th of March. He says, this is in Arabic, this is a translation. He says, all people of the Arab Gulf, like, it's not document. He's like, wasiqu. It means like, improve your relationship and cooperation with Israel. This is his advice. There is no good in the countries of the region, of course. So he's basically saying, improve your relationship with Israel. The people of the region and the countries of the region are no good for you. And at the same time, the Americans are telling them, oopsie, our air defenses, we should prioritize them for Israel. And this is something that is important because the UAE as a country and as a functioning country is based on the idea that this is a safe haven. Everybody is coming there to bring their money, lots of money laundering happening. Let's put them aside. Anyways, you can bring your money, you can invest here. This is a safe place. So the attempt and this type of talk against Iran also destabilizes this image. It shatters this image that they have created about themselves, that this is a safe place, we are neutral, we are not engaged in any wars, but you're becoming a party of this war, and which means the vision that you created about yourself is already being destroyed, and many people are fleeing Dubai nowadays and going back to their own countries. So I don't see a future for the UAE under this policy. There will definitely going to be a huge earthquake in the UAE if this ground invasion happens of Iran.
Let me just share a point of wisdom I learned from Max Blumenthal recently. In a show we had together, I asked him why, that was like regarding the events of 8th and 9th of January in Iran, and we were talking about the influence of Israel. And I said, why Israelis are doing that? Why they are so in rush? Because that was like a mobilization in Iran that was organic, and if they had given it time, it would have actually put a lot of pressure on the Iranian state. But the way that they quickly weaponized it and they rushed into make it into an armed struggle was very strange, and actually that alarmed many people in Iran that something dangerous is happening. And Max Blumenthal said, because Israel has no history, it's a young country. The vision of future is very short term. They cannot think long term. Same is correct about Dubai and UAE. UAE is not a country. UAE has been run and managed like a corporation, like a company. So if you watch Succession, which is like a comical version of this, you can understand the mayhem in UAE. They think they can buy everything. Last week, Wall Street Journal had published an article about how Dubai's the brand Dubai is destroyed. And in Dubai's page on Instagram, I can recommend everyone to go and watch. There was a video clip by a Western female singer, very well done, beautiful video clip in which they were shouting, Dubai is safe, Dubai is still safe, Dubai will be safe again. And repeat with yourself, you know in your heart, Dubai is safe. So they think they can win, they can go to war, and then they can change this with PR. These people, countries like Dubai, countries like UAE, they bought so much what companies like McKinsey, DWP, and all these consultancy groups are selling them. They think they can go and fight with a country in the region which has been there for the last 3,000 years. And then whatever damage is there, they can repair by employing and hiring very expensive PR companies. But people know that the moment, so far, the migration out of Dubai has started, from Abu Dhabi has started, and the capital flight from those countries, those, how do you call it, the Sheikh Nashin, yeah? Those Emirates has started as well. And Dubai will not become Dubai in after this war. And also, Dubai has to think, America will leave, and they will be left with Iran, an Iran which is much more militarized, an Iran which is not divided between liberal diplomatic side and military side. The power is going to be consolidated in the hand of people who've been fighting, and so UAE will not have an easy time in this region ever again. In 1990, they brought United States to protect them. In 2026, UAE is going to be a small country left alone with a very, very much more empowered Iran. So they have to think about the future. But I think the hubris that they have gathered in the last few years, they've been deceived by the shine of their own gold, doesn't allow them to think clearly. However, another place like Qatar, despite the fact that Qatar has been attacked by Iran, it seems that they are showing more clarity, and they've been trying to keep the restraint and the respect towards Iran, because they know that the day after this war, America is not in the position to protect them, and also Israel attacked them back in the summer, so they know that they have to repair the relationship with the main regional neighbor, and I think they've shown more wisdom. So it's interesting to watch and monitor UAE in the next few weeks, and I'm sure their language will change. But look at that, Kevork. We should not take things coming out of people's mouths in this war for granted. Things change. Remember Merz, the country that you live in? About 3 weeks ago, Merz said the international law has to be suspended in dealing with Iran. And he put his feet over each other and he said, Iran has to be destroyed. Iran, we are supportive of Israel and America's fight against Iran. The international community has been too patient. Let's destroy. All this feeling of let's cut the head of a snake once forever, this attitude. And what did Merz say yesterday? He said, we need to give peace talks chance, because the price and the inflation in Germany is threatening his reign as the Chancellor of Germany. So give it another 3 weeks to UAE politicians. They're going to change their words as well. This is a very fast changing scenario and situation. And so those people who've been very confident in talking about let's go all the way, this is a once in a generation's opportunity to destroy Iran, in 3 weeks' time, they may change their mind.
Yes. Guys, before I go to the last part of today's show, just want to tell you that Ali's X account is in the description below, and also his YouTube channel is in the description below. He's posting regularly on the Persian channel, but you can also find the English channel also in the description below. And just to follow up on what you said, Ali, Steinmeier, the president of Germany, also 2 days ago, he said this war against Iran is illegal, although 3 weeks ago, the chancellor of Germany, he supported the war of aggression. But because the tide has changed, because the balance of power has changed, because they have seen the response of Iran, that's why they changed their rhetoric. And the same thing applies on Qatar, by the way. Had the Americans been successful in Iran, the UAE, the Qataris, the Saudis, everybody would have celebrated. Now that they see that this has become too long also for them to sustain, their economies are suffering immensely, 15% of their liquefied natural gas is destroyed for the next 5 years. Those are billions and billions of dollars worth of money. And they have projects for 2030, 2035. They're hosting events. So lots of things are ongoing in the GCC countries that they want to preserve. But there is a consensus nowadays in the region, and this is the last question, Ali, I promise you, that the United States will withdraw. Maybe they will diminish their forces at the beginning, but eventually people can see objectively that the United States as an empire has reached its limit. This is the limit. They came, they met Iran, and they said, we're going to destroy you. It didn't work out with them. And this has not happened in the past 20 years with these regime change operations. This is the first time they see serious, real resistance, and they objectively, the people can see that America has limits. It is not this invincible power. It's the Rambo that they go and they destroy everywhere and they win all the wars. But if Americans withdraw from the region, what is going to happen to Israel in this case? I'm really serious. I'm asking you objectively. What is going to happen to Israel? This is a project in the region, in my opinion, is dependent on American support. And if this American support is diminished and the American forces withdraw from the region, what is going to happen to the project of Israel, the state of Zionist state there that is discriminating against everyone, that one group is over the rest? What is going to happen to the project itself in your mind?
How much time do I have? Because that's a very serious conversation and serious question.
Take your time.
That's an interesting thing. I think, first of all, for America to move out of the region is not the end of time. Actually, I think that was part of Americans' plan. Trump's America, at least in his mind, one of the problems was America was too overstretched in a military way, too many bases. So actually, in my opinion, America wanted to win this war, degrade Iran or break it down, destroy the Iranian state. And then with the absence of Iran, America was going to hand over the region to Israel to become what I've called hegemon of the region. Hegemon, as a neology I made, is a negative hegemon. A hegemon is a state which can create a regional order or world order. A hegemon is a negative side, which is not capable of creating any order, but can create enough chaos and destabilization in the region in a way that it is still the strongest force. So that was the plan, in my opinion. And that's why Netanyahu is still happy about this war. That's why Netanyahu pushed Trump to come and join this war. So Trump's role in this stage was to destroy Iran's missile capability, to destroy a big part of Iran's infrastructure, and leave Iran and then at the end of this war, almost like Iraq in 1990, with internally bleeding, with the population very angry with it and economically degraded, many of its industrial facilities destroyed. And so Iran can only think about its own survival for the next 5 to 10 years. That was the thinking. Actually, it's true that in the last 3 weeks, in almost 27 days to almost 4 weeks, from 15,000 targets that Americans and Israeli have hit in Iran, many of them have very little to do with military and with IRGC and army. They've been targeting Iran's industry, pharmaceutical companies. Many of the things that have are necessarily for Iran for the day after war to become a normal country. So that was the thinking. So Israel think if they can tolerate this war for another 2 weeks, they can take out layers after layers of Iran's military power and also break down the country internally and let it be. And after that, I think Israel wants to annex West Bank, annex part of Syria, definitely enter Golan Heights, start thinking about Corridor of David, and they talk about Greater Israel, but even if they don't achieve Greater Israel, they can start destabilizing other countries, start thinking about Greater Kurdistan, start thinking about destabilizing part of Turkey. And so they are in a safe position in their mind, even if without America. They feel confident enough. Iranian thinking is we are going to teach Israel a lesson that wake up from such a delusional hubris. And that's why, for me, the end of this war doesn't have much to do with Trump. Trump doesn't feel much pain at the moment. Yes, if the oil goes up, if he loses midterm election, he may actually start exercising some leverage over Netanyahu. But for me, Iran's focus is on Israel. Israel should feel such a pain, and Iranians should degrade Israel's military power to a level that actually contain Israel for the next 10, 15 years. The same way that Hezbollah did in 2006. 2006 created an equilibrium which lasted for about 18, 19 years. Yeah? And that was important. It doesn't mean that Israel will not create civil wars in the region. But after that truce between Hezbollah and Israel in 2006, still Syria war happened that Israel was a covert party to it, as you know better than me. So they will still continue in the shadow war and try to destabilize. But that's the main thing. What will be left to Israel? Israel still sees itself as a nuclear power, still has access to the inventory of American F-35s, Tomahawks, kind of THAAD anti-air missiles and whatever like technology. And they feel confident enough that without a strong Iran, without a economically viable Iran, they can at least have a strong hold on west part of Middle East, or at least on the Mediterranean side. And I think that's enough for them at this stage. Yeah? So I think Iran's objective is to stop them of such a capability. So looking to Israel, still Lapid is with Netanyahu. Still the majority of Israelis support the war. The day that you see that majority is broken, the day that you see there are demonstrations in Tel Aviv saying no to war, the day that you see Netanyahu gets under fire from Lapid and from other factions, that's the day that we can see, okay, Israelis are feeling the pain and possibly the off-ramp and the end of this comes. What comes at the end, I think Israel also doesn't think clearly either. Israelis have the delusion because they won against children in Gaza, they can become this hegemon or this negative hegemon of the region. And they have the delusion that whatever destruction this war has brought is still beneficial for them to grab land and to put countries to their knees. Look at that. They've succeeded since 7th of October. They really destroyed Syria, and that gave them a lot of confidence. They've been going in and out of Lebanon. That gave them confidence. Jordan is completely almost like subjugated to their will. Egypt doesn't say much at the moment. So that confidence, that fake and false confidence has given them some miscalculation. So it's up to Iran to wake them up from this. But I think in general, Israel is on its own self-destructive path, the way that it was from 7th of October, destroying all its bases in the West, destroying its legitimacy and popularity in the West. So there are two things: how they think about themselves and about the future of this war. As I said, they feel confident, they think in a militaristic way, and they think they're winning. They're winning, even though America is losing, even though the region is losing. That's good for Israel. Even the destruction of all these Persian Gulf countries is seen as a positive sign in Israel. They think those companies like Oracle, Microsoft, OpenAI, who do not feel safe in Dubai, possibly will go to Silicon Valley in Israel. They think part of this high-tech technological Silicon Valley of the region will move there. And so their thinking is different. Israel benefits from the destruction of Dubai, Qatar, Saudi, etc. But my claim is only in short term. Only in short term. In long term, I think Israel will lose as well. And so we have to wait and see.
Ali, what a wonderful conversation with you. God bless you. And we are very grateful for you, for your insights, for your wisdom, and sharing this wisdom with us. We learned a lot from you. Hundreds of people were commenting and telling me, you have to get him back on the show. And I don't want to add a lot of pressure because I know he's very busy and he's doing a great job, guys. So please also go and follow his X and see what he writes and what he posts. And through his X, you can also access to his YouTube channel. I think it's important for the audience, those who come to Syriana Analysis, also to listen to real Iranians like Ali, who, in my opinion, as I say, a jewel in the diaspora. I have met many people from the Iranians everywhere. They're really smart people, but this war has proven that they are like a diamond, very, very rare people. So respect to you, Ali, and respect to the Iranian people as well. We will continue covering this case. We will definitely have you back on the show.
Thank you very much, Kevork. Just before going, I say this is not a war against people of the region. It's a war for the people of the region. It's not because Iran is Shiite. Iran is like different language. There is no Arab in Iran. There is no Sunni and Shiite and Armenian and Assyrian here. This is a war to liberate the region. The region has been occupied since 1990, and the region has been occupied since 1945. So by Israel, and 1990 by United States. So it's up to people of the region to realize what Iran is doing is for the benefit of all. And so if this is, again, is a necessity and is an obligation for people in the region to see what's happening now as part and as a sequence of what happened from 7th of October. Yeah? Iran and Palestine are intertwined, but Saudi media, Emirati media, even Qatari media and Al Jazeera, they do not want people to see that. So there's a lot of propaganda influence from these countries, apart from the Israelis and Americans, to create Iran, to represent Iran as a singular exception who is trying to become powerful in the region. Iran doesn't have any of those hegemonic ambitions. Iran wants two certain things, which has always been repeated by Qasem Soleimani, by Martyr Said Ali Khamenei, and by other leaders. The exit of American troops from the region, and second, a referendum for people of Palestine, because question of Palestine is not only an idealistic political thing, it's a real political thing. As long as Palestine is not free, no country in the region can have any sovereignty. And we have seen why in the last 2 years.
100%. I also see this as a war of national liberation for all the people in the region, and the governments, especially in the Persian Gulf monarchies. They know that they have linked their survival to the presence of the Americans in the region. That's why they're fighting alongside the Americans in this case. Had they really and truly wished for an independent region, because at the end, Iran's, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, enormous wealth. You can become a relevant player collectively on the world stage. Why would you put your eggs in the basket of the Americans? And now when Iranians are showing them there is an alternative path, we can do it together. We were under 40 years of sanctions, and look at us. We developed ourselves by our own. We didn't need American, European, Israeli technologies, investments to come for us to be advanced. We can do it by ourselves. And this is the most dangerous thing, in my opinion, that they sold to the people this idea that without us, there is no development. Without us, there is no technology. Without us, there is no defense. That's why people also are waking up to this very, in my opinion, dire situation and the fact. And I can see the Omani people are really, really eloquent people. They are on the true side of history, and you can see that the Omanis are, I'm talking about ordinary people, they have completely different literature than the Saudis and the Emiratis and the Qataris when it comes to Iran. And they're telling the people, look, Iran is our neighbor. It's going to stay there. Americans are the foreigners here, and one day they're going to leave. So how are you going to deal with Iran later when they leave, right? So just like you said. So this is a brilliant way to end our conversation with you, dear Ali. Thank you so much, guys, whether you watch this on YouTube or on Rumble. If you like this conversation, the easy thing to do, please hit the like button, subscribe to Syriana Analysis, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace be upon you, upon your families, and peace be upon you. Ali, salam.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Kevork.
With pleasure.